Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself. My name is Nadia Disty with student ID 2024-32092 from class PBDC. In this video, I will be explaining practicum report 4 for the introduction to big data course titled Exploring Web Scraping Through the Quotable API. For the practicum, I choose the Quotable API as my data source. The Quotable API is a free public API that provides a collection of inspirational quotes from various well-known figures. I choose this API because its structure is simple and suitable as practical material for web scraping. This API uses a pagination system based on the page X parameter at the endpoint HTTPS API quotable IO quotes, so that every time we change the value of X, we get the quotes content from a different page. Now I will explain the libraries I use in this program. There are three main libraries I import, namely, first, the time library, which I use to add a delay between each data retrieval process. This is important so as not to overload the API server we're accessing. Second, the pandas library, which I use to convert the scrap data into a table structure or data frame and then export it into a CSV file. Third, the request library, which I use to send HTTP requests to the API server in order to retrieve the quotes data in JSON format. Alright, now I will explain the program flow in more detail following the order of the code I wrote. First step, I set up the API endpoint variable, which HTTPS API quotable IO codes. I also add a user agent header to the request, the purpose being so that the request I send looks like it's coming from a real browser, so it doesn't get blocked by the server. Second step, I set two container variables, namely keranjang underscore quotes and empty list to hold all the quotes data that get successfully retrieved, and halaman underscore active, which I set starting from 1 as a marker for the page currently being processed. Third step, the program enters a loop using while, which will keep running as long as the active page value is less than or equal to 12. I deliberately set up to 12 page, so the number will exceed the 10 page minimum required by the task. Inside the loop, there are several processes that run in sequence. First, the program sends a GET request to the API using request.get, including the page parameter corresponding to the currently active page. Second, the program checks the status code of the response. If the status code is not 200, meaning the connecting failed or had an issue, the program will immediately stop the loop using break. Third, if the status code shows 200, meaning success, the program will convert the response into JSON format, then retrieve the quotes data found inside the results key. Fourth, the program checks again. If the data on the data turns out to be empty, the program will also stop automatically, since that means there's no more data on the following page. Fifth, if data is available, all the quotes data from the page will be merged into keranjang underscore quotes using the extend function. Six, the program will display a message on screen showing information about which page was successfully downloaded, along with the number of rows. 7, the program adds a 1-second delay using time sleep. This delay is important as good scraping. It quit so the API server doesn't receive too many requests in a short amount of time. And finally, the value of halaman active will increase by 1. Then the loop will go back to the top to process the next page until the while condition is no longer met. Okay, after the entire looping process is complete and data from all 12 pages has been successfully retrieved, all the data stored inside keranjang quotes will be converted into a table structure using PD data frame. Once it becomes a data frame, the data is immediately exporting using the to.csv function and saved under the file name hasil scraping laporan 4 CSV. Okay, as we can see from the program run results, every page from 1 to 12 was successfully downloaded, with each page containing 20 rows of data. So in total, there are 220 rows of quotes data that were successfully collected and saved into a single CSV file. Okay, that concludes the explanation I can give regarding the web scraping program using the Quotable API in this practicum report 4. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.